What made you decide to run for this position?
I've been going to the city council meetings for the last 10 months. I've been involved. I started going when I learned about a retaliation, political retaliation that had taken place against a citizen. And I stayed involved in the meetings. Was a part of a group that filed an ethics complaint, of which they were found guilty by a judge. And then the Attorney General also issued 8 counts of open meetings violations against the City Council. So I have been involved in wanting clean government and honest, transparent government. And the reason that I really started going is I found out that that was not happening, and as a result of that, we were losing jobs. Economic development was suffering. We had lost 7,000 jobs during the economic downturn. We had not gotten those jobs back, and now I learned the retaliation is going on that's preventing economic development from being able to occur as it needs to. So I was motivated for 2 reasons. As a citizen, wanting ethical, honest, transparent government, and as a business owner, wanting jobs back in the community so that my business would do better.
So you're a watchdog. There was something that didn't sit well with you, and that caused you to take a stand and fight for this transparent government.
Well, I wouldn't exactly say it's a watchdog. I was just a citizen. I had not been to a city council meeting in 22 years. And I was concerned that any governmental agency would retaliate against a citizen for political reasons, and also with the condition our community was in, that we would be losing more jobs.
So do you have any political experience or any political background?
No, I've never run for office.
What is your background in then?
Well, my first career, I was chief financial officer of a bank, and I was on the board of directors of a bank. Then my second career, I own my own businesses for the last 25 years and have run my own businesses.
What's your business?
We own Haviland Express Lube, a car wash, and Express Tire Pros, and we also had owned Haviland Express Lubes in Marietta, Duluth, Macon, and then we owned a car wash and lube center in Conyers. So we've had businesses in several cities, and as well as Milledgeville.
Is Milledgeville where you're from, or are you native?
I've been there for 43 years.
43 years. Okay. So then obviously this wanting a transparent government, and as you mentioned, you're a part of that ethics complaint that was filed, and then the recent issues with the former mayor and his business and causing him to step down. What is it that you think you could bring to the table in this position to kind of help restore the citizens' faith in the government and in Milledgeville?
Well, first of all, I would make it easier for citizens to participate in government. I would welcome them. There would be a place on the agenda that would allow citizens to come and make comments that would be made to feel a part of government. It is difficult now to get on the agenda. You're very limited with what you're allowed to participate in. So I would definitely welcome citizens. I also would have weekly meetings with the press to allow the press and the citizens to know what's going on in government. I would also be a leader. I would be a mayor who leads. We've had a mayor for the last 10 years that did not show any leadership. He worked very closely with City Council, and they did agree with each other on everything. And as a result of that, we did have some things go on that should not have. I would never participate. I want to get along with City Council. I'll work very hard to get along with City Council. However, I will not participate in unethical government or illegal acts ever.
Do you feel not having any political experience is a positive or maybe a hindrance to taking on the leadership of mayor? It is only going to be for 2.5 years for this particular term.
I think it's much better to not be an experienced politician, not to be a career politician. I think it's better to come with some new ideas. I have been going to the meetings. I have some new ideas, and I will be a leader. I've been a leader in the past in the community, as well as in owning my own businesses and being in my previous career. I've always been a leader. I have some new ideas. I'm willing to take some risk and try to help our city move forward. I think oftentimes we do with experienced politicians, they tend to work deals that make it work better and make it seem better for them, but it's not necessarily better for the public.
What are some of your ideas that you hope to bring if elected?
Economic development would be one of the first things. We need to fund economic development on a much larger scale, and actually what's happening now with our new Milledgeville budget the city council, and actually Barry Jarrett, the city manager, is recommending to council, and it would appear that they are probably preparing to approve this budget, is a 10% decrease in economic development funding, which is counter to what we need to do in order to expand industry. We have to put more money into economic development in order to do that. So the economic developers in our city, which is the local economic development authority and the Central State Hospital Redevelopment Authority, both asked for extra funding, and they didn't get extra funding, they got reduced. All the while, City Council gave themselves, and at the recommendation of Barry Jarrett, a 10% increase in health benefits, the cost of their health benefits. So the first thing I would recommend and work on is economic development. I would support local businesses, look at giving them a method. Maybe they could, instead of paying all their taxes at the end of the year, they maybe could make them in 4 equal payments, which would help businesses considerably. Also, we transferred $2.7 million from the Water and Sewer Fund last year. That is overcharging for water and sewer, and we have a lot of people in our community who are struggling. They don't have jobs, families that are going without, and I would hope to be able to look at how to reduce some of those fees, or maybe set up an indigent fund to help people who are having a difficult time paying those bills.
Going back to the budget, I'm not entirely sure of the timeline. Do they have to have it approved by July 1st? Is that the...
Yes, so there is a budget hearing again tonight. It'll be the first reading of the budget, but there has already been public discussion where these recommendations were made.
So you could take, if elected, leadership in this position prior to the budget getting its final approval, and possibly have that economic development, look at those funds again.
Yes, and you can always have a budget amended.
So, economic development, do you have any other major platforms that you wish to tackle if elected? Well,
I'd already mentioned honest, ethical government that would be put in place, supporting the existing businesses. Oconee Regional Medical Center right now, our local hospital is facing downsizing or downgrading. I have already recommended that the city become involved in that. We do not need to lose our local hospital with being a full-service hospital. We need to be involved in that and have a seat at the table and have some conversations. That was brought up to our city recently by our head of economic development, and he told them, please get involved and let's see what we can do to save our hospital. They did not even give an answer. They did not reply. I would immediately, as mayor, move forward with bringing the city to the table to see if we could not have a positive impact on keeping our hospital.
Why is it so important to keep the hospital in Milledgeville?
If you don't have a hospital in your community, economic development will suffer. Who wants to go into a community that does not have a full-service hospital, where you would have to drive to Macon for hospitalization or for minor surgeries? We need a full-service hospital in Milledgeville that's viable, or we will not be able to expand economic development. That is one of the priorities in having a good, solid community is health care.
I know the next issue that will be tackled after this election will be unification. Do you have an opinion or a stance on merging the two governments?
I think the idea of consolidation is good. I think merging services is very good. And I think we could move forward if city and county would work together and merge some services which would deliver good services, maybe at a less costly rate to our citizens. However, this charter that we have that we're voting on, we're not just voting on consolidation, we're voting on the charter. The charter has the potential of disenfranchising minority voters. So I would not vote for that.
Is that your only concern? After talking to some other candidates, there's a couple concerns. That was one of them that was brought up. Is there anything else that jumps out at you that raises some red flags with the charter? Or positive, maybe, even with the charter?
The one I think that I found a bit disappointing when I learned that the 7 governments that have already emerged in the state did not find that there was any economic development advantage. I would like to see, if city and county merge, that you would be able to prove that there's going to be economic development advantage. That has not been proven in any of those operations. I am concerned about the district lines that were drawn also. 5 candidates that are currently serving, 5 political leaders who are currently serving would be drawn into the same district, and those are minorities. So I think that is a concern, another concern.
So do you think it's possible to maybe merge some services without consolidating the two governments? Do you think that's something that could be done?
Absolutely, if city and county will work together. You have to be able to talk to each other. At this point, the city and county governments are not talking to each other, and I think that is one of the reasons that many people may be interested in the consolidation, is so that we can get our governments working together. Now, what I would pledge to do as mayor is I would lead in sitting down with county officials and talking and working together. We did have some services merged some years ago, code enforcement, building inspection. Those were merged, and over time they've been separated again because the county government and the city government do not get along, and that is definitely a negative for our community.
So you think reaching across the aisle, for lack of a better phrase, but reaching across the aisle is important even if you're elected mayor?
It's extremely important. I would do it immediately. I would immediately reach out to the county to see where we can start working on consolidation of services to make it better for our citizens.
You touched on the, regarding economic development, the Central State Hospital Redevelopment Authority. I've met with Mike Couch several times, seen a lot of good stuff happening over there. How important is what they're doing out there, bringing businesses, bringing jobs? Is that important to the Milledgeville community?
That whole complex is in the city limits. So it's not just, it's important to the city of Milledgeville for the tax base, but it's important to the whole community. I think it's amazing what's going on out there, and I cannot believe the city council is even considering approving a budget that's been recommended by the city manager to cut funding for that. I find it very, very discouraging.
So we talked about the challenges that Milledgeville has faced right now. What is it that you would want the community to know about you if elected mayor, that if you could speak to the voters right now, what is it that you would want them to say to them?
I will be a mayor that leads. We do have a form of government that does not give the mayor a lot of power, but the mayor still has a leadership role. That leadership role would be to open the meetings, to have the transparent government, to make people feel that honesty is being restored and that they're welcome. And when people believe that, they participate in government more. And that I will work for the proper funding for economic development. For marketing our city, we have $25,000 in the marketing budget for economic development. Dublin has $300,000. They're eating our lunch. We have money in the city that we can use to fund economic development. We have money in the city that we can use to give not only tax and abatements, which we are doing some, we could do more, but I would like to see us do some incentives. If a business is looking at coming to Milledgeville and we want to lure them and let them know that we're a good community, we could give them money for startup costs, for equipment, for moving their employees to Milledgeville. Money is available, and our city has the money that can be used for that, that's disposable. It's not encumbered, and it could be used for that. So I will work for economic development, which is going to be jobs. I will support public education. My children went to public schools. I was president of the PTA at 5 schools. We had 5 schools that our children went to, and I was president at all of those schools of the PTAs. I will support public schools. We must have good public education. And if we don't support good public education, we will not have those people who are available to the workforce. So, honest government, I will definitely work for economic development. I'll work toward public schools. I'll work to keep our hospital viable, and I'll support our existing businesses. And I have strong intentions of doing those things. Now, the city council, I'm just the mayor, but I will work to get along with them and to help them understand that we don't need to hold back these kinds of things. Their voters in their districts, well, they'll have to be accountable to them in the end, but they need to realize that we all have to work together for our community and not for special interest.
Do you have any concerns working with the people that you filed ethics complaints against and that were upheld?
Well, obviously they're not happy to have been found guilty, They were found guilty, and 4 of them were found to be just as guilty as the city manager. And the only reason they were not asked to step down from office is because the judge determined that the city manager could have moved the money and exacted the political retaliation on his own. But they were found to be just as guilty. I did not find them guilty of that. They did that action. They took that action. No, I don't think that they like that they were caught. Hardly ever does someone who's done something that heinous like the person who pointed it out. So I don't think that they would prefer that I be there. However, I'm fair, I'm honest, I will work with them, I will do my best. I will not participate in that kind of behavior. But we've had a mayor that did that for 10 years, and look where we are. And, you know, if truly the citizens of Milledgeville want to stay where we are and want to have a mayor that's going to agree with illegal actions, it's not going to be me. I plan to lead forward and to do something different, and I think our citizens are ready to do that.
What do you believe the state of Milledgeville is?
I think Milledgeville has great potential. The colleges that we have there are wonderful. We've done a good job developing our downtown. We need to claim those things and be able to move on. But we seem to have gotten stuck in this mode of illegal meetings, unethical behavior, and we've actually been called out on it by the head of the Chamber of Commerce for the state of Georgia. Sent a letter and said, you will not receive any more referrals for economic development until you repudiate political retaliation, and we still won't do it. We're stuck in the mode of saying, you know, we've been found guilty by our own judge, but we don't want to acknowledge it. And the Attorney General has found us guilty of 8 counts of open meetings violations, and right now, if we would agree to that, pay the fines, and go to the training, we could move on. But they still are refusing to do that.
Do you think that's what is necessary for whoever takes this leadership role, whether it is you or someone else, to move forward, to say, we got to accept what happened in the past and got to move forward to bring it
I think we all have to do that, but how do you accept what's happened if those who have been found guilty are still spending the taxpayers' money to fight it? I mean, this is the highest authority in the state of Georgia, legal authority in the state of Georgia, and at this point in time, you know, the best thing to do is go ahead, sign off, pay the fines, do the training, and let's move on. That's exactly what we need to do. But you can't have candidates who are running for mayor who say, let's forget about it. Let's pretend it didn't happen. Everything's okay. Let's sweep it under the rug. If we do that, it is going to happen again.
So as mayor, if you were elected, is that something that you would urge council to do, to acknowledge what happened, accept what happened, and pay those fines in that example, and move forward?
Absolutely. So we can move forward. We will not be able to move forward as long as that's hanging over our heads. It's going to impede economic development. It is going to cause us not to be able to work together with the county. It's a black eye, and the black eye is not created by people who ask you to please move on. It's created by those who refuse to, even after they've been found guilty.
Going back to economic development, you say that this is what I want to do, this is what I like to do. Do you have any, I guess, experience or you know, knowledge of how to do it, of how to bring businesses and jobs to Milledgeville?
I think I probably have as much knowledge as any business owner does. I started my own business. I have my own employees. I have had as many as 60 employees at one time. I think I have that, and my customers come from Milledgeville. I'm dependent upon jobs in Milledgeville. I do know that water is key to economic development, and we have a bountiful supply of water, over 8 million gallons a day in excess, so we could attract those industries that need water, and there are many communities that do not have that advantage. I also I know that we're in need of a railroad spur. We don't have rail in Milledgeville. We are in need of that. I know what our needs are. I've identified those. I've spent time researching those. I think I know what the path is. I do not claim to be an expert in economic development. I do claim to be good at leading, and I would support those that we have hired. I think that Matt Pointer has done an excellent job. I think that cutting his budget was not in the best interest of our city, if that happens tonight. I think that Mike Couch has done an excellent job, and I think cutting his budget is not good. I think that looks extremely bad for our city. So as mayor, I would say that is the way that I know how to lead. I do not know all of the steps. I do not plan to go on the road and start working with Matt Pointer or with Mike Couch. That is not my job. My job is to lead as mayor, and hopefully get city council to work together so that we can, you know, give them the tools that they need for economic development.
Do you see any challenges that lie ahead for Milledgeville?
Oh yes, very serious challenges that are there. You know, we have some things to overcome now. We have a hospital that could possibly, you know, be downsized to the point that all we become is an emergency room or indigent care. That's a very, very serious situation. We have over 40% of our children who are considered in poverty. Our schools are getting free lunches because we have such, our level of income is so low and poverty is so real in our community. Our unemployment rate is still very high, much higher than the rest of the state. For people to say that we don't have challenges in Milledgeville, it's not really facing. We have some very nice things in Milledgeville, but we have some very serious underbelly problems, is what I call them, and we need to face those problems.
Do you think you could accomplish some of those, all of those, in the short term that you would serve if elected as mayor?
Well, I would hope so. I would immediately start to work on doing those. I think that the key to it is going to be working to get others on board to understand that. But in transparent government, people will know who's leading and who's not on board. It will not be done in meetings where those votes are not taken publicly. The public will know what's holding us back.
Anything else, Ms. Burrell, that you want to say about your election, your campaign, that I didn't ask or that you didn't get to say?
Well, obviously there's been an issue in our community that had to do with discrimination that was taking place at Capital City Club. It is a civil rights violation, and I did attend meetings at the college and heard from the students and some faculty members who were involved too, particular incidents of discrimination that they were telling. And from what I hear and what I heard, you know, the civil rights violation, there's enough there for someone to file suit and bring some charges there. And as mayor, I don't think that would be good for Milledgeville. I mean, if I'm elected mayor, it's not good for our city to have those kinds of things there, and discrimination is not something we would want to be known for. So I would take an active stand to say, as mayor, that we need to address that and not allow that to go on in businesses in our community. That is the only business that I'm aware of that it has happened in, but I think the charges were fairly serious, and we definitely, as mayor, I would want to see that end.
How could the city move forward from that, if that's the way it goes?
Obviously, it's a federal law. It falls on the civil rights violation, and someone would have to bring those charges. I don't see that would be at this point something that the city would move forward on. However, if those charges were brought and there was evidence of that, the city has control of business licenses and liquor licenses. So, you know, it would have to be looked at very seriously. I can't say that that's something the business owner would certainly have the right to defend himself and have to be given those rights. But I would, if that evidence is there and proves to be that way, I would not want to see a business like that operating in Milledgeville.
Anything else, Ms. Burrell?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.